What if the next Morocco is hiding in plain sight? Every World Cup produces a surprise team. In 2002 it was Turkey. In 2018 it was Croatia. In 2022 it was Morocco. And before every tournament, fans make the same mistake. They focus on the favorites: Brazil, Argentina, France, England. Meanwhile, the next Cinderella story quietly develops in the shadows. But here's the interesting part. The most dangerous dark horses aren't always the teams with the biggest stars. They're often the teams with hidden advantages that almost nobody notices. Today, we're looking at 6 World Cup 2026 dark horses that most fans aren't talking about, and why one of them could shock the football world. Number 6, Jordan. The team changed by one tournament. Most football fans couldn't have named a single Jordanian player a few years ago. Then something happened. The 2024 Asian Cup. Jordan didn't just have a good tournament. They reached the final. And while many people saw it as a miracle run, they may have missed the bigger story. Throughout football history, breakthrough World Cup teams often announce themselves first at continental tournaments. Morocco stunned the world in Qatar after years of growth. Croatia's rise began before their legendary 1998 World Cup run. The same pattern can be seen again and again. The biggest change isn't tactical. It's psychological. Players who once hoped to compete suddenly expect to compete. Jordan's players now know they can beat major nations. That belief can be worth more than talent alone. And if Jordan escapes its group, don't be surprised if they're this tournament's biggest shock. Number 5, Cape Verde. The tiny nation with a global football network. Imagine a country with fewer than 600,000 people qualifying for the World Cup. That's Cape Verde. To put that into perspective, many cities around the world have larger populations. Yet this tiny island nation keeps producing competitive football teams. The answer is something most fans never discuss: diaspora power. Cape Verde has communities spread across Portugal, France, the Netherlands, and other football-rich countries. Many players grow up in elite European football environments before representing Cape Verde internationally. So while the country itself is small, its football talent pool is effectively global. That creates a unique advantage. Cape Verde often has players accustomed to European tactical systems, professional training standards, and high-level competition. The result? A team nobody wants to face. Number 4, Turkey. The dark horse nobody calls a dark horse. Turkey occupies one of the strangest positions in world football. They're too strong to be considered an underdog, but not strong enough to be considered a favorite. Historically, that's exactly where dangerous teams emerge. Think about Croatia before 2018, or Morocco before 2022. Nobody expected them to reach the final stages of the tournament. Turkey now has a generation unlike many before it. Young stars have been developed in some of Europe's best football environments. Arda Güler grabs most of the headlines. But the real story is the depth behind him. Turkey is quietly producing one of its strongest generations in decades. And because most fans focus on traditional contenders, Turkey continues to fly under the radar. Exactly where a dark horse wants to be. Number 3, Norway. A generation with something to prove. Everyone talks about Erling Haaland. Everyone talks about Martin Odegaard. But almost nobody talks about the psychological side of Norway's story. Norway hasn't appeared at a World Cup since 1998. Think about that. An entire generation of Norwegian footballers grew up without seeing their country on football's biggest stage. That creates a unique kind of hunger. Many football nations carry the burden of expectation. Norway carries something different: opportunity. This squad doesn't need to defend a legacy. They need to create one. And historically, teams with that mindset can be extremely dangerous. The story isn't Haaland. The story is what happens when an entire football generation feels history waiting to be made. Number 2, Uzbekistan. The team that should have been here years ago. Most people see Uzbekistan as a newcomer. But that's not really true. For more than 20 years, Uzbekistan has been one of football's greatest, almost, stories. They repeatedly came close to qualifying. Sometimes by a single goal. Sometimes through heartbreaking playoff defeats. sometimes through bizarre circumstances. Qualification wasn't delayed because they lacked talent. It was delayed because football can be cruel. What's fascinating is that Uzbekistan never stopped investing in youth football. While the rest of the world ignored them, they kept developing players. Youth teams improved. Academies improved. The talent pipeline improved. Now, that long-term investment is finally paying off. And unlike many World Cup debutants, Uzbekistan arrives with something incredibly valuable. Experience. Not World Cup experience. Pressure experience. Years of chasing a dream that always seemed one step away. Now they're finally here. And they may be better prepared than people realize. Number 1, Curaçao, the World Cup's most unusual experiment. If there's one team almost nobody is discussing, it's Curaçao. And that's exactly why they're fascinating. On paper, they're a small Caribbean nation. But their football story is much more complicated. Many of their players developed within the Dutch football system. That means players raised in one of Europe's most respected football cultures are representing a Caribbean nation on the world stage. Think about how unusual that is. Most underdogs struggle because they lack elite football infrastructure. Curaçao effectively borrows decades of football knowledge from one of the world's best development systems. It's one of the most unique national team models in modern football. And if they manage a major upset, millions of fans will suddenly discover a team they had never paid attention to before. The next great World Cup story probably won't come from France, or Brazil, or Argentina. It will come from somewhere unexpected. Maybe it's Jordan. Maybe it's Norway. Maybe it's Cape Verde. Maybe it's Curaçao. Or maybe it's Uzbekistan finally showing the world what 2 decades of persistence can achieve. Because every World Cup creates a surprise. The only question is, which team will be the next Morocco? Let me know your dark horse for World Cup 2026 in the comments.